everybody, and welcome back to Crochet College, or if this is your first time, welcome. My name is Mia, and in today's video I am going to be showing you a fun yarn buster project to help get through some of that scrap yarn that you have lying around. This is a great fall project. I currently have a few shows coming up for fall that I want to make these cute little scrap yarn pumpkins to be able to sell along with the other material that I'm selling at my event. What's great about this is you can make these pumpkins in any color. So whatever color scheme you are working for the event, you can use your scrap yarn from any hats or other projects you have to make pumpkins that match your theme but also look cute as decor. So the supplies you will need for this project, you only need 2 colors. These are just some of my scraps that I have lying around. And then as an added bonus to get through some of your scrap yarn, instead of using polyfill stuffing, you can just use some of the yarn that you still have lying around. You'll also need to use a crochet hook that matches the yarn best. So I have a few different types of yarn here that I'm going to be working with. My worsted weight yarns, I'll probably be using a 4.5mm crochet hook. But then some of my thinner stuff that I've got going on, like I have this cotton yarn that's pretty thin, I'll probably go in with a 2.5mm crochet hook on that one. I don't want to have any big holes in my pumpkins. And the last 2 supplies that will come in handy is a pair of scissors and a needle. So this way you can cut the ends and sew everything up together nice and neat at the end. Alright you guys, so I'm going to pick which yarn I'm going to make this pumpkin with and then we can get started. So I begin this project with a magic ring, but I want to leave a pretty long tail. So once you've got your hook inserted into the magic ring, or that slip knot on top of the magic ring, you can begin your foundation chain. However long you want to make your chain is completely up to you. The only thing that's going to happen is you're going to get a bigger pumpkin. So normally I tend to go about between 20 and 30 chains. And that's however many stitches we're going to be working along the side of the pumpkin. I like to make each of these unique, so this way it's almost like they're coming to pick out their pumpkin while they're browsing at my storefront or my booth. Okay, once you've gotten your chain to your desired length, I'm going to ask that you chain 2 additional and then work 1 half double crochet into each stitch all the way down the foundation chain. Once you make your way all the way across that chain and you are back at that magic ring, I'm just going to have you slip stitch once right into that circle, then chain 1 and turn your work. Now I'm going to work back across this row, working 1 half double crochet in the back loop of each of these stitches. This is where it's going to be important for you to make sure you're counting your stitches or you have a stitch marker in so you always have the right amount of stitches as you work up and down here or really side to side, because I find doing any stitches into the magic ring, it is easy for me to lose count because once you get more of these rows put on there, they start to kind of cinch close together. So make sure you're counting so you have a very even pumpkin. When you get to the end of row 2, you are going to chain 2 and turn. Now, if you'd like, you can continue working 1 half double crochet in the back loop for every single row, but I have a trick to make this look even better. Instead of working through that back loop or that front loop or even the top of the stitch, I come a little forward and I'm going to work all of my half double crochets into that third loop or that cross that was created in the yarn over of the half double crochet. So I'm going to work row 3 through that front third loop there, and I'm going to work 1 half double crochet into each of those stitches through that third loop all the way until I make it back to that initial ring that we started with. Once I reach the end of row 3, I'm going to work 1 slip stitch into the magic ring and chain 1. From here, I can continue working repeats of rows 2 and rows 3 until I'm happy with the amount of rows that I have going around the magic circle. The more rows you make, the plumper your pumpkin will be. versus if you have less rows, you're going to wind up with a taller pumpkin rather than a plumper one. So I'm just going to continue working repeats of rows 2 and rows 3 all the way around. Okay, so I've gotten my work to a length that I am happy with and a width that I am happy with. I made sure that the final row that I did ended at the circle. Just so you guys know how big mine is, I have 10 inches long, unstretched, and just about 4.5 inches wide. So once you've gotten your pumpkin up to the size that you want it to be, you're just going to chain 1, and then you can slip stitch up the work. The way I slip stitch is by going through each back loop from the previous row and going right through the bottom of the foundation chain. In doing this, it almost mimics the same effect that the ribbing has had going up the whole side of the pumpkin. So I'll just continue slip stitching my way up until I reach the top. Once you finish slip stitching the two sides together, you can leave a nice long tail and finish off your work. The reason I'm leaving a long tail is I'm going to use that tail to stitch the whole thing closed at the end. Now for the pumpkin bottom here, I'm going to cinch that closed, and all I do is turn it inside out and pull that circle. I don't want to pull it too tight because I don't want to accidentally rip it, but I do pull it closed. I can later use my, when I'm stitching the whole thing closed, I can reinforce this with my yarn needle. So I'm going to set this open sack aside, and I'm going to make my little stem. So I've picked a new color for the stem of my pumpkin, and I'm just going to begin with a slip knot, and then I will chain however long I want the pumpkin stem to be. Once I've gotten that chain to my desired size, I will chain an extra 2 and work 1/2 double crochet in each stitch all the way across the row. Once you get to the end of that row, as long as you had a nice tension on your hook, you'll wind up having this beautiful curly stem, and then you can just finish it off. And you don't even have to worry about weaving in any ends here because all of this is going to be hidden on the inside of your pumpkin. Okay, now I'm ready to do the finishing touches to put this whole thing together. I make sure I turn my pumpkin so that the wrong side is facing inside. Any extra yarn that I have, like that tail from the beginning, I keep right on the inside of the work. Next, I am going to thread that long finished off end that we had left behind, and I'm going to use this to just whip stitch, or really just stitch, across the entire pumpkin, right on the top rim there, so this way I'll be able to cinch it closed. So I'm going to stitch my way all the way around the top rim of the pumpkin. Once I get all the way around, I am ready to stuff the pumpkin. I can do this by either filling it with polyfill, or I'm just going to use some other yarn scraps that I still have lying around. Once I get the pumpkin stuffed to the fullness that I want it to be, I'm just going to use that cinched, or that thread that I still have hanging out, to pull the whole thing together. I still have that little hole there. This is the perfect time for me to insert my stem. So I just want to shove the bottom of the stem in and any of those pieces or those tails that I have from creating the stem right onto the inside there. Now I'm going to pull that extra tight closed, and from here I can just kind of use my yarn needle threaded to stitch the whole thing shut and make sure nothing comes out. Once I'm satisfied with how secure this stem is in there, it's time for me to shape the pumpkin. And the way I do that is just by using my yarn needle to stitch between the top and the bottom ends of the pumpkin. When I get to the bottom, I can use this as an opportunity to really seal up that hole. But I'm just going to continuously stitch back and forth between the bottom, and I'm going to pull that a little tight. This will start to create that pumpkin shape. I'll continue stitching between the top and the bottom until I feel like I have a secure hold between the top and the bottom, and I have a nice shape to my pumpkin. Once I'm happy with the shape my pumpkin has, I'm then going to tie a knot a few times on the bottom of the pumpkin. So the way I do that is just going through one stitch in that bottom part of the pumpkin, leaving a loop and pulling my yarn back through it. I'll do that 2 or 3 times just to make sure I have a secure knotted hold at the end. I always do this on the bottom so nobody can see it. Once I've completed the knotting it at the end, the last thing I'll do is pull my yarn once more up through the pumpkin, either right to the top or through the side, whichever is easier. And now I'll pull that thread a little bit so it's taut, and I will cut it off. And when I let it go, that thread will wind up going back inside the pumpkin. I can add a little twist to my stem there, and my project is complete. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to leave a like and subscribe to my channel so you'll be one of the first to know when I come out with a new video, tutorial, or pattern. As always, thank you guys for crocheting with me, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.